Hey, let's talk about some of the Locked On Spurs fan comments and then ask, is Magic Johnson right about the Spurs and the playoffs as soon as next season?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Hope everybody's having a great work week. And almost done. A couple more days, and that's it. Today and tomorrow, weekend is here. As always, we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every single day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts, Google Play, iTunes, Ken's 5 Plus app. The list goes on and on. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. We got to talk more about Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes, unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. Download Monopoly Go right now for free on Google Play and the App Store, and game on. What are we talking about today? We're going to start off with you guys, the Locked On Spurs fans, some comments y'all are leaving, then bringing our guest, Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. We're going to be discussing Magic Johnson's recent thoughts on the Spurs being a playoff team as soon as next season. Yeah. And then also discuss the whole skipping steps vibe that the Spurs are pretty much talking about since the beginning of last season to, I guess, now. And let's dive into it. So you guys are leaving a lot of Locked On Spurs fan comments. We appreciate it. Keep them coming. We're going to need it as this long off season is just barely beginning. Let's see who is leaving some comments here, and we'll start off with July 26. Yeah, that's the person's name, July 26. Spurs already know what it takes to build a championship team. We did it with the Duncan era and can reuse the same blueprint for Wemby. Thank you, July 26, for that comment. Now he's reacting to a recent Locked On Spurs discussing about, the Spurs following patterns like Phoenix and Clippers, adding power players on one team. And, it's hard to compare the Wemby era, which is just starting, to Duncan's era. Recall Duncan came in with a ready-made team. The team was ready to go. He was just icing on the cake. That team still had Robinson and Sean Elliott and a bunch of other good players, veteran players. Wemby came into a team that was young, didn't have any all-stars whatsoever. These guys, minimal experience in playing in high-pressure games and whatnot. So Wemby was thrown into that department. And also, too, the eras are just different. Today's era is all about shooting and making threes and running and gunning. The Duncan era was still slow down, 4 down, half court and whatnot. So different eras. And although the Spurs, let's put it this way, I agree with you to a certain extent, July 26, that the Spurs have been there, done that as far as building a team around a top tier player like Duncan. But they're going to have to adjust how they think and adjust the roster moving forward with Wemby. He's a totally different player, playing a totally different era than Duncan did. So, perhaps the same, I won't say blueprint, but the same mentality, surrounding Wemby with quality pieces. Duncan had Manu and Tony, and he had quality players that joined into that mix, from Danny Green to Fabrizio Alberto to Thiago Splitter, even to a certain extent, Steven Jackson, Steve Kerr, and the list goes on and on. The Spurs will do that with Wemby. They just got to figure out what pieces fit best with them. But thank you for July 26 for that comment. We appreciate it. The next comment is from Mandito. Appreciate it, Mandito. He simply says, let them cook. Now, he's again reacting to a recent Locked On Spurs regarding the blueprint for the Spurs rebuild, the current one they're going through. And at least, Mandito, you're thinking that the Spurs should just have a slow rebuild, let them cook, grow together, and there's some validity to that. We saw what the team could be at the end of last season. They really finished the season strong last year. But don't forget, a couple years ago, the Spurs did the same thing. They finished the season strong. Then you fast forward to last year, bad record, 22 wins. So been there, done that 2 years in a row, finishing strong, but the Spurs got to do something. I think letting them develop chemistry or cook, as you say, is part of the plan. I think the Spurs got a really good look at what this team can be. Trey Jones spoke to me about it in the season finale against Detroit. He said that he feels that this Spurs team gave the fans a glimpse of what can be. And we'll see. We'll see how much major tinkering the Spurs will do in the roster. But, the Spurs are saying not skipping steps, that they're going to take a slow approach to the rebuild, they're doing that, but letting them develop chemistry, I think that's a big piece of it. Maybe they don't make a major move this offseason. Maybe that major move comes maybe next trade deadline or in the following offseason. But appreciate that, man. Detail for leaving that comment. It's a good comment, too, because it segues into our next segments with Rudy Campos will sweep the league. When we get back, we're going to be discussing what Magic Johnson has to say about the Spurs playoff chances as far as next season, and then talk about skipping steps. Hey, I want to talk to you about Game Time. You want to go to gametime.co right now for the best tickets around. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Look, I've used Game Time before for a non-sporting event, and let me tell you, it was fast, it was easy. I didn't have any problems using the Game Time app. Now, let's talk about a little bit more in detail what they provide. You can easily find and buy MLB tickets, for example, which is basically every kind of event in your area. You can also get those zone deals. Now, what is that? You can save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time pick your seat. Again, those all-in views, you can toggle that feature on the app to show the pretty much a panoramic view of where you'll be sitting and the venue you'll be in. All-in pricing, basically that allows you to see all the price total up front, no surprise fees at checkout. Lowest price guarantee. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find it cheaper elsewhere. And your purchase is always covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app right now. Create an account. Use code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDON NBA, Locked On NBA, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the San Antonio Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we're now joined by Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Follow him on X at Sweep the League. By the way, Rudy, you come on Locked On Spurs so much, I decided to play some intro music for you. What do you think?
I like it. I'm a rock guy, man, so I definitely like the intro music. It's really, really good.
You deserve it. You deserve it. You're coming off the bench again. Yeah, Rudy is definitely being the sixth man for Locked On Spurs. Again, a guest we had scheduled for today couldn't make it. That's why we tag in Rudy Campos, a la the Von Erichs back in the day. You know, tag me in, tagging. You come off, you rattling the ropes, and you swing on in, and then you start pile driving everybody. Yeah, that's what Rudy does here on Locked On Spurs.
Well, you
and
know, let me go to a tag team. When I cut you off, if I had to name a tag team that I always wanted to be a part of, I don't know if you remember them, but for all the kiddos out there, that Demolition from back in the day.
I remember Demolition. I have a vague memory of them, yes, but I do. I'm aware of that. What about the oh my goodness.
I mean, you can name a lot.
Help me out here. What was the one? It was like two guys, they were kind of bald and they would come like this, the marching
Road Warriors or the Legion of Doom.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's you and me. We're the Legion of Doom.
Can we get the spikes, the shoulder pads?
The Raiders adopted that, didn't they? Like the Raider fans?
Yeah, you see some of the fans doing that at Raider games, and what do they call that? The black hole in Los Angeles Raiders.
Yeah. Well, I wish we could talk about wrestling all day, but we can't because you're here on Locked On Spurs to talk everything silver and black. What are Rudy and I talking about today? Well, we're going to be reacting to what Magic Johnson had to say. A high praise, yes, it's a nice pat in the back of the Spurs, Wembayama, but according to Magic, the Spurs are going to be a playoff team. Oh, I don't know, next season. We're going to react to that, and then discuss skipping steps. You've heard that a lot the last season from several players, coaching staff, brass. We're going to be discussing that and more. But just to recap again, after the Lakers season ended, losing to the Nuggets in the opening round series, Magic Johnson put out a warning to his Lakers, saying that the Lakers need to shake things up. The West is getting stronger. He mentioned OKC, and then out of the blue, he says, and the biggest elephant in the room is the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama. Fine, I get that. So far, so good, Magic. You're doing so good. And then he ends it by saying, because they're going to be a playoff threat next season. Yikes. Hopefully, we're not getting the Magic Johnson curse, Rudy, because I don't want that. That's a curse. I don't want that. Spurs like having another bad season, another 20+ win season. But Magic, I think you need to pump the brakes. What do you think, Rudy?
Yeah, it's more of a motivational tactic for the Lakers than it is for any of the other teams, the young teams in the West, to kind of fall back on. For him to say the Spurs are a playoff team next year, it's still far fetched. We don't know what's going to happen in the off season. I mean, you still have a draft coming up as well.
Yeah.
But if you pull the same team out on the floor right now, I mean, definitely is not a playoff team. You saw what happened this year. Is there improvements? Yes, you'll see improvements from the team because the longer you play together, a la international basketball, if you play together longer, eventually you're going to build a chemistry and it's going to be a winning environment. But do I think it's 30+ wins? No, not right now, not with this team. So pump the brakes on that, Magic. It's not a playoff team just yet, but they're at least they're on the porch of the door, of the front door.
Yeah, my takeaway is one, thank you, Magic. That's high praise. Okay, fine. You want to motivate the Spurs. Remember, Spurs Lakers, they've had that rivalry. It's not as heated anymore as it was in the 2000s, but it's there. And I mean, the Spurs Laker rivalry even goes back to the early NBA days, right? Hemisphere Arena days. I mean, the Spurs Lakers have always had their back and forth. Two, yes, I do agree with you. It is motivation. I think that's what he's trying to do ultimately. And three, I think it's just a testament to Wemby, if anything. Wemby is just a dominant force that perhaps another year, with a year under his belt and then going into year two, he could possibly carry this team to a bigger win record. But you mentioned you named, the amount of games the Spurs could possibly get next year. You said something about 30. Really, 30 doesn't even get you into the play-in tournament. Yeah, that's how crazy packed the West is. So what about that? But the fact that Spurs can get themselves 30-something wins, but that's not even good enough for the play-in the West.
Yeah, the weird thing about this offseason, Jeff, is what people fail to realize is this is going to be probably the most tenuous, the most stressful, but also the most explosive offseason we've seen in a while. Because if you look at just teams in the West only, I'm gonna name off a few: Golden State, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Suns, the Pelicans. These 5 teams have the potential of blowing up. They're gonna have to make some moves. Obviously, Klay Thompson probably not going to be a part of the Warriors. Go to the Clippers. Paul George is already rumored to be out of the Clippers at the end of the offseason. Not only that, they're going to a new arena. So they're probably going to just ride with Kawhi, which means James Harden may not be there as well. LeBron's certainty in LA is also a big one. If they end up losing LeBron, I almost can be certain they're probably going to try to trade Anthony Davis. Phoenix is a big question mark there because you saw the debacle they had this season, getting blown out and getting swept by the Minnesota Timberwolves. One of those guys is going to have to be on the move. And the biggest reason why is because Phoenix doesn't have a draft pick, not first round, but a total draft pick, first, second round until I think 2029. So they are in Valhalla when it comes to NBA. They are just dead in the water. So Phoenix is definitely going to have to make a move. You're probably going to see Kevin Durant go, but you also may see Devin Booker as well. So a lot of these teams that are, vying for the play-in playoff spot might be coming down because you're going to see a lot of these stars leaving. So to say that they're not a play-in team, I still agree they're not a play-in team, the San Antonio Spurs, but they're going to be a lot closer than people realize. Yes, 30 wins doesn't get you into play-in or playoffs, but again, it's knocking on the doors what you want to see.
Yeah, you can rattle off, first of all, we'll rattle off the teams that are likely to do it again as far as a playoff berth, but to get a playoff berth, you got to be one of the top 6 teams in the West. For a guaranteed, yes, you can work your way in through the play-in tournament to get 7-8. But first of all, we take it in layers 1 through 6. There's no way the Spurs are 1 through 6 at all. Because Denver's still going to be Denver, so that's 1. So let's say 6 spots maybe. So you got Denver, they got 1, so that's 5. You have Minnesota, they're taking 1. They're next. Okay, OKC, they're taking a spot. So there's 3 spots already. Okay, now we're talking about teams that are likely to get 55 or more wins next season. Okay, then we're forgetting about the Pelicans. Is that a healthy Zion?
Tough. It's
They
tough.
might they I can see them getting a playoff spot.
Probably
Then
not, because Brandon Ingram is a big question mark. They're probably not going to be a part of that team. So
right.
I think I think they take a step back, to be honest.
Fine, okay. Then throw in Dallas. Dallas will still be Dallas. So there's another spot. You see where we're going with this. And then not to mention the return of John Morant to Memphis, which is going to be huge. And my fear, and we'll talk about this later, but you got a team that's in the Spurs' backyard, Houston, that is knocking on the door. They were this close to getting to that play-in tournament. And at one point, they were early in the season. They were in that playoff mix, but they had a really good late season surge. It just wasn't enough. So you got Houston that is right on their heels.
Sacramento, forgot Sacramento.
Sacramento, yeah. Of course, other teams are going to take a step back. I do agree. I think Phoenix is going to take a step back. You have, for me, another big question team are the Clippers. What if the Clippers fail again? With Kawhi, not being more reliable. Reliability and Kawhi do not go together. So there's the Clippers. So yeah, that's just the West is just tough. Who knows what happens to LeBron? I think he stays in LA despite he is a free agent, but I think he does stay in LA. It's still tough. They're not going to ball. I mean, think about this. They'll have to go from a 22-win season for a playoff spot near 50 or more. That's a big turnaround. Play in, that's still a big leap. They'll have to go from 22 to about high 30s or low 40s. Rudy, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's going to take a lot. And, we can hear fans say that it's happened before with David and Tim, but we've got to always step back and say those teams were already, squared away. They had players in place. So when both of those guys came in, it was, pretty easy to turn those two franchises for the Spurs, those two teams around. But I can't, if you put the same exact team on the floor, I kind of raised the win total to about 26. I can probably see another 4, maybe 5 wins, 26, 27 wins. Safely put, can they go higher? I definitely think so. I mean, they can probably, like I said, you can probably, at the beginning of the show, I said you probably do like 30 wins at the high for me. Again, not a play-in team, but you see a significant improvement. I do see an improvement on this team, but it depends really what happens in the offseason. So with Magic saying that the Spurs are a playoff team, he's talking more in the lines of Victor Wembanyama because they are one of the younger teams in the league. So they can be a threat really quick, barring, they don't make a huge move in the offseason. Grabbing, a Donovan Mitchell or somebody that I've mentioned before would clearly put them into 35, 36 minimum range. So it just depends on what they do in the offseason for right now. But yeah, it's hard to say that this exact team is going to get you at least to a playing spot.
Again, there you go with the numbers again, 35, 36 wins. Just think about it, that's still not good enough just for the, the play-in tournament. I'm trying to look right now of some of the schedules. The records last year, or this current season, I should say, for the play-in tournament. Now, look, the Spurs are in the East. Yeah, I think they good to go. But they're not. Yeah, they couldn't make it. Yeah, exactly. Let me pull up the standings here. So we're looking at the West. So again, 1 through 6, likely not a thing for the Spurs. But let's see the play-in spot.
Yeah, it would take 24 wins to make the 10th seed.
Yeah. You had to for the Warriors to secure the final play-in spot, they had to win 46 games. The Kings had to get 46 games. The Pelicans 49. The Lakers 47. You got to get now. In this case, they got to get the Spurs have to get a high 40s. High 40s. Houston was knocking on the door with 41 wins. That wasn't good enough last year for the Rockets. The Spurs would have to have a 23, 25 win turnaround. I don't think they have. I think they have a better win. They have more wins next season, but 25 plus wins, I don't think so, Rudy.
Yeah, no, there's really no way. Even with the dissension of some of these teams in the West, I mean, if you lose a Kevin Durant in Phoenix, but you keep a Bradley Beal, a Devin Booker, and you maybe trade for Kevin Durant, you're going to get some pieces in return. You're still at a probably a 40-win team, 41-win team there. The
Yeah,
only
that ain't getting you in the play-in.
Yeah, and the only thing I can say is if you look at the play-in teams, out of those teams, three of them, if LeBron leaves, then obviously the Lakers take a step back. If Clay leaves, it doesn't really make too much of a difference on Golden State. But you're still talking about them around the 40-win range.
Mhm.
The Pelicans are still going to probably be flirting with 40 wins. So I think more than anything, if we're going to flop a team out, it could be one of the play-ins, and you're probably putting Houston in. Houston has just
Yeah,
more of a developed team, and they've been playing
yeah.
for a while together. So the cohesivity there is probably way better than what the Spurs have. But again, I'm not saying the Spurs don't have a chance to knock on the door. They can. If anything, Jeff, I would say on the very, very high end, I'm probably having them at a 12 seed, maybe, two more
Okay.
spots above. So I think that's on the very, very high end, depending on who they bring onto the roster in the offseason.
Look, I'm not gonna disagree with you. You predicted the Spurs were gonna have a bad season. You did. Let it be known,
I
everybody.
hope.
Rudy Campos was like the lone soul to start last
Yeah.
season to say, "Yeah, Vegas is right. They're gonna have a bad season," and
And
everybody just threw tomatoes at you for
I
why
called
did you
20,
say
yeah.
that?
I called 22
Yeah,
wins, and I got lucky on that. I will admit that.
no, you did. Yes, everybody. Rudy Campos called 22 wins, matched Vegas, and both of these guys got it right. But you mentioned a Devin Booker and the Suns and the likelihood.
Mhm.
Nothing solid yet, no reports, but possible blowing it up. Our guest yesterday, Locked On Spurs, Hector Ledesma came on, and he asked me. Well, he didn't ask me. He threw it out there. He said that he would throw the bank at Houston at Phoenix to get Booker in a Spurs uniform next season. Would you mortgage that much to get Booker in San Antonio next season?
Devin Booker is a player that I would definitely mortgage
Okay.
for when it comes to the San Antonio Spurs. His game fits perfectly with the Spurs. I mean, great shooter, great scorer, can definitely make everybody around him, including Victor, a lot happier, make their lives a lot
Mm-hmm.
easier. A guy that I'm really pressing hard for, and actually two guys that I'm pressing hard for. Because if you want to see 45 plus wins, 46 wins, Devin Booker is a way to start at least. But I've
Mm-hmm.
been highly pressed on two guys. One of them is Donovan Mitchell out of Cleveland. I think,
Mm-hmm.
he's a young guard. He's the guard that you really need. He can score, he can dish, he can do a lot of stuff to make the team better, but also knock on Utah's door as well, because Larry Markkinen is a guy that
Oh
could
yeah.
make Wemby's life. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you saw the season that Wemby had his rookie season.
Yeah.
If you were to add players like a Larry Markkinen and a Donovan Mitchell,
Mm-hmm.
you can't even imagine the type of numbers that Wemby would be put on, because not only do they have to worry about Wemby, they've got to worry about two other guys like that. So those are the two guys I get. But Hector's right. If you have a chance to put it with Devin Booker, I would say that is definitely a person you would throw the bank at and give him whatever he wants. Just back up the Brinks truck.
Yeah. Yeah. I was kind of iffy on it. Um, uh, and I get everything. The Spurs need a floor spreader, check. Young guy, check. All-star, check. Veteran, check. Star power, check. Puts butts in seats, check. Ticket sales. I mean, we know where I'm going with. I
Mhm.
was just a little leery because, well, I guess Wimby. I think about it now. I talk it out with you. His defense is not the greatest, but Wimby is the human eraser. He'll make up for anything you screw up on the perimeter. Uh,
Yeah.
but also too, I maybe Donovan and the Cavs, they probably want a lot, but not maybe as much as Phoenix would.
Mhm.
Regardless, the Spurs can afford it. If they really want Booker and the asking price is considerable, technically the Spurs can make it happen.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Well, Rudy, you made it very clear. You will pick up the phone for anybody, including Wemby. But
Yeah.
are you saying here's Devin, here's Sohan, here's first round picks for Booker? Are you going that far?
At this point, honestly, probably so, with the exception of throwing Devin and Sohan. I
Okay.
would think one of them would be probably the max asking price as far as players.
Mhm.
The biggest key with Phoenix, and this is where the Spurs hold all the cards, is like I had mentioned before, they don't have a draft pick for until 2029. So they're going to want draft assets. They're going to want picks, something that the Spurs and Oklahoma City have. I mean, you can go with, hey, we're going to give you 4 first and, 4 seconds and maybe a Keldon or a Devin or something, plus a couple of other players. So that to them means more than anything, because then they'll still have probably KD and Bradley Beal under contract. So they still have their stars. Adding a young guy and then adding all these draft picks still makes the Suns a viable team in the West. So I think it's more draft picks than it is players. The thing with Donovan Mitchell, it's kind of different. They could use more veteran players than draft picks. So honestly, Jeff, I mean, if you're going into the offseason, why not try for both? I mean, I'm calling crazy stuff here, but I mean, it goes back to, I guess, the topic we're going to get into, skipping steps. It just depends on how far do you want to skip.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you did that. Set it up perfectly for our transition. We're going to be talking about that. By the way, before we do that, Magic, appreciate the shout out. Like that you see the Spurs as a threat, but just not
bring it down
there
a little bit.
quite yet. But we appreciate the sentiment. All right, as Rudy mentioned, skipping steps. You heard that a lot last season. Oh, we're not going to skip steps. We're going to build this and naturally. Is that the right way to go? We're going to discuss that right now on Locked On Spurs. Hey, I want to talk about Monopoly Go. Okay, everybody, time out. We got to pause here to talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that. But there's just so much good stuff in the game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's brand. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. Unique stickers. You can trade with your friends. Complete albums for big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel the board with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. It is so much fun. You got to go get it right now. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. What more do you need? Go get it right now, Monopoly Go. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So go get off that bench. Go download for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Follow him on X at Sweep the League. The band just keeps on playing for you, Rudy.
Yeah, do I need to come up with a wrestling intro where I'm coming down the ramp and, doing all these dances and stuff? Because if I have to, I'll do it for the next show.
You know what? I think you need to do that. Come with the luchador mask on.
I have the luchador shoes
like this. Like this. Hey, what's up, everybody? Again, he is Rudy Campos of Sweep the League, and we're discussing all things silver and black. And one thing we're talking about is skipping steps. But before we do that, Rudy, you have something to share with us, do you?
Yeah, let me share my screen here for everybody.
Yeah, I'll pull it up for everybody here as soon as you're ready. But Rudy just wants to go back to a quick point about the last segment, Spurs, playoffs, making a deal to bring in the star power. And this is regarding, I believe, Donovan Mitchell. So let's see what Rudy has here for us.
So,
all right, there you go. What you got?
Yeah, so basically Trae Young is going to probably be on the move between DeJounte and Trae. And this is a trade scenario that I had brought up on the Alamo City Podcast Network with Joe Garcia. And it kind of got a lot of people talking, so I want to share it with you as well. It's a 3-way team. Obviously, you see the Spurs, the Cavs, and the Hogs. So what I had presented was, okay, Cleveland may not want to keep Donovan Mitchell, because he does want out. There's been rumors that he wants out. Obviously, Trae Young or DeJounte Murray are rumored out of Atlanta. So what Cleveland wants to get is they want to get a star in return. Easily giving up Trae Young to Cleveland, bringing Donovan Mitchell to the Spurs. Now you have to give up one of your own stars as well. So you're obviously giving up Devin Vassell. Devontae Graham, I think, was played at the end of the year a whole lot to up his trade value, which makes a lot of sense. So giving them Devontae Graham as well to Atlanta. Plus, they're getting 2 first-round picks, the Spurs' first-round pick this year and Cleveland's first-round pick this year. And then you're giving the Spurs pick next year, not the Atlanta pick, the Spurs pick next year. Now, The one thing that people got to keep in mind and may bring up for you basketball heads out there is that the Spurs cannot trade back-to-back years picks of their own. But in this case, what they can do is they can draft for Atlanta, and then that player is traded when the deal is complete. So I think this is something that is very likely. I think that it's a possibility. Now, there's going to be more picks for the Hawks, obviously second rounders and stuff, probably another player or two. But for me, this made sense for a lot of the team. You're pairing Devin and DeJounte again in Atlanta. So plus you're getting 2 first rounders this year and a first next. It's just a rebuild that I think the Hawks would like to have right now.
Yeah, look, you got to break some eggs, as they say, and to get in a Donovan Mitchell, as you have, like we're showing on the screen, this trade proposal, you got to do it. I mean, look, the Spurs gave away a known commodity, George Hill, for Kawhi Leonard. Worked out in the short term. Spurs traded Sean Elliott, known commodity all-star, for Dennis Rodman. Worked out in the short term for a while. But yeah, you got to do this. And if the Spurs, by the way, it's a good graphic here, Rudy. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
If the Spurs decide to go that route, you got to trade somebody. You got to give it up. And if Devin is the guy, then so be it. It's the guy. But you're getting, in your trade proposal, you're getting a floor spacer with Wemby. You're getting a known commodity, an all-star, scorer, slasher, the works. So, yeah, good thing. But that leads to what we're talking about here. That is skipping steps. You heard this before throughout the entire season, from Brian Wright to Buford to Popovich, even Wemby himself has said this team is not skipping steps. But is it time for this Spurs team to throw that out the window and say, you know what, you're going to have to skip steps, Spurs, because there's some teams that could be lapping you soon?
You know, the skipping step part is it's controversial in a way because, you know, fans want stuff to happen right this very minute.
Yeah.
And I totally get the frustration. I mean, you've got a generational guy in Wemby who's going to probably be one of the best players in the NBA for years to come. But you also have to understand that this is unknown territory for the San Antonio Spurs, not the losing part. They've lost before. But when I say unknown, having this much draft capital, having this much cap space, you don't want to go out and just blow it all. And then you're stuck with a bad contract. We've seen that happen to a lot of teams. Bradley Beal's contract this past year is terrible. Phoenix picked it up and you saw how it didn't work out. It made you a playoff team, but it just didn't work out. The Spurs have to play smart. They've got to be smart. They do know what they have in Wemby. They know the players that are going to be able to play around him and play with him. Those are the guys that they need to get. And you know what? It may not be star potential, like big-time stars right now, but it could be rising stars. And that's where you've got to understand is that skipping steps is never a good thing because you're going to, you know, put yourself in the corner for 5 years if you sign a big-time guy and he doesn't work out. A lot of teams aren't going to trade for that guy in the first couple of years of his contract because it's just too big of a contract. So you've got to really do your homework, cross your T's, dot your I's on a lot of these guys. So I'm not a fan of skipping steps. I'm a fan of just letting the process work out, not like Philadelphia, but, you know, the Spurs know how to do that. It hasn't been through the draft. Let's not lie. It hasn't been through the draft, but I think they're going to be smart with everything they have right now.
Yeah, skipping steps to me reminds me of the previous adage the Spurs would say, remember, built, not bought.
Yeah.
Built, not bought. That's what it basically sounds like to me. You know, built through the draft with Tony, Manu, and Timmy. You know, maybe the Spurs are on that path. You know, they built starting with the foundation of Wembanyama, and they're going to continue that building process in the draft with the picks. You know, the Spurs, you know, they have a good shot at getting number one again. You know, it's not a 14%er, it's a 10%er right now, but it could happen. So, but there's a part of me that thinks that, you know, you gotta buck that trend. This whole skipping steps thing, you gotta throw out the window. I think the Spurs are sitting on a massive mountain of assets. I mean, yes, players included on the roster to make something happen immediately. And then you look at, as of right now, Wemby's short term with the Spurs, it's going to go by quick. It's, what is it, the rookie's contract, then the
4
extension, and then the supermax that you can offer. And that'll go by fast. I mean, Kawhi, how fast was he here? It feels like it blinked and he was gone. So there's that. Then there's what Wemby wants. Wemby's going to get, and if he sells the team, look. At the end of this, pretend next season it's another down season. Sure, they win a bit more, maybe they're high 20s or low 30s. And oh my God, can I do this again? I'm looking at my colleague, the guy that my biggest rival, Chet Holmgren, going off and going deep into playoff runs, and I'm here getting bounced. But different situations. Chet pretty much walked into a ready-made team, kind of, sort of. Wemby didn't. So he's gonna be like, I want to keep up with that. I want to experience that. What if he goes that route? Then you're damn right they're gonna be skipping steps if Wemby starts crying a bit and getting upset about it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't fault the Spurs if they start skipping steps and saying, you know what, let's start wheeling and dealing. Let's bring in Donovan Mitchell, your trade proposal. Let's bring in other power players. But as we asked on yesterday's Locked On Spurs, Rudy, I'll get your thoughts on this. Is going that route, bringing in massive stars, a bad thing, a la, for example, the Suns, who just stockpiled on talent? Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Booker. Who else did they get over there? There's the fourth guy there. Or even like the Clippers, Paul George, Harden, Westbrook, Kawhi. You think that those are cautionary tales for the Spurs in their rebuild right now?
Yeah, 100% it is. I mean, those two teams have gone just playoff teams. Are they contenders? They're not contenders at all because you've got a bunch of guys that don't play together. This put it this way, this isn't dream team basketball. This is a full NBA season. So these guys are not going to coexist great. I mean, you've seen teams coexist a la Draymond, Steph, and Clay. And then you started to see how it started to fall down a little bit this past season. So you can't just, and this is the word I'm going to use, Jeff, you cannot panic in what you have right now. And I think if the Spurs decided to just sell the farm and grab a lot of guys and bring them in, I think it is panic. And then go to the other side of it. A lot of these guys that are on teams like Phoenix, what coach wants that kind of headache, man? You don't want that kind of headache. I mean, you're plagued, you're picked to win so many games and title contenders, and Kevin and Devin, like there's no team that can guard us. We scored too much scored too much, and it's just a panic button. And that's what I don't want to see the Spurs do, is hit the panic button. They've got to build it right. And for those that say built, not bought, look what they've done. They've got so many draft picks that they're able to build through the draft. You're going to have bad drafts like this year, but you're going to have great drafts like next year. They've got so many picks going in these next couple of drafts that they can easily build a team like Oklahoma City. It's just going to take a little bit of time. And then all they have to do is do an Oklahoma City, a Sam Presti thing, and add a star like SGA, who nobody knew was a star.
No, nobody knew. Yeah.
Nobody knew. That was a full gamble and a full risk. Nobody knew he was going to be a star. But they hit. Congrats to them. But again, don't panic if the Spurs. There's no reason to panic. You have Wemby for what, Jeff? 12 years possibly, max?
Possibly, yeah.
So I don't see them needing to panic right this very second. And the other thing is, I'm sure that they told Wemby coming in, look, you're not going to win a whole lot of games this year. You're probably not going to win a whole lot of games next year. Give us a little bit of time. We will build it around you. And he's a very smart player, so I think he understands that.
You still think the long play right now is Cooper Flag, huh?
If they're lucky enough to get Cooper Flag, yes. But if they're not, there are so many talented players in 2025. Plus, that's why I point to that, because you've got the draft, to me, is 2025. If everybody comes out like they're supposed to, that draft is stacked. You're going to get players from top to bottom. But then you've also got the free agent class. You've got, potentially LeBron again. You have Giannis. You've got so many guys in 2025 that are going to be free agents. It's like you're holding the world in both of your hands if you're the San Antonio Spurs, because you have X number of cap space, and you have X number of draft picks. So you can do really whatever you want in 2025. And
they're balancing another arm, if you will. We're going to be a mutant, right? We'll keep an X-Men theme here. If you're a mutant, one hand, as you mentioned, the draft. One hand, the flexibility, your cap. There's a third arm. It would be the Wemby effect. Yeah. He pretty much said that players are contacting him, that they're texting him. So you throw that in the mix, the Spurs can be power players. Maybe not next season, but perhaps next, the following season after that. And what Wemby's year 3, maybe that's where you start seeing the pieces come together.
2025, 2026. I've been saying that's the season that this all turns around.
We'll see. But one thing for sure is Rudy never skips steps on Sweep the League. Tell us about Sweep. What's going on?
Yeah, so we're just kind of doing little videos that we're going to be releasing for Alamo City Podcast Network and also Sports Insanity. The NFL draft just ended up finishing right now. So Cowboy grades and everything are coming out. We're doing a lot of videos on that. Like I said, we're still coming to you once a week on Fridays on the Alamo City Sports Podcast. So be sure to look for us on there. But you know what, Jeff? I never do this to you ever, but
here we go.
I think you might have a topic to talk about with somebody else if you want. And that is, if they were to, all these players are contacting Wemby and you've got superstars coming in, can Coach Pop coach a team like that? Because
I think he could.
You think so? I mean, remember, this is the NBA. This isn't Olympics. This is NBA where guys are getting paid. So if Devin Booker comes in, if Donovan Mitchell, if you build a team like Booker, Mitchell, Wemby, and somebody else, if Mitchell isn't hitting his scoring average because he doesn't get that bonus, that's my thing is, can Pop coach a super team in the NBA? Yeah,
Pop's never been in that situation. There was Timmy, yes, but Manu and Tony were not there. They were great Hall of Fame players, but never like a collection we're seeing like with the Clippers or in Phoenix.
Exactly.
Some of that. You think it would have worked with the Heatles? Like if Pop was the coach of the Heat at the Heatles peak?
No, I don't think so.
All right. See, that's what you got to check out. Sweep the League. Rudy has a controversial take.
Yeah, I don't think so. Spoelstra was a good coach, but you know what? Go back at the tape. Spoelstra even had problems with that team. So I think Pop's a little bit more hard-headed and stubborn than Eric is.
Rudy. Say, everybody, you got to check out Sweep the League.
Yeah.
On YouTube, part of the Alamo City Sports Podcast Network. Go check it out right now. Hey, we're done talking. We want to hear from you. The band is definitely playing off Rudy again. Look at that. They just love Rudy. I
gotta bring the belt, the championship belt I have. I gotta get that. That'd be awesome.
That'd be cool. Yes, please do that. Yeah. But everybody, thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. We appreciate it. Subscribe on Ken's 5 Plus app, iTunes, YouTube, Spotify. The list goes on and on. We're gonna have Vinny Vincetta tomorrow to close out the week here on Locked On Spurs. We got a good one for him. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna agree with me. I'll tell Rudy what it is when we put a wrap on this episode. But Vinny will be coming in, my colleague at Ken's 5, so check that out. Subscribe to Locked On Sports Today, 24-hour streaming channel only on YouTube. Subscribe to it right now. So for Rudy Campos, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock in this episode of Locked On Spurs.